Hello everybody and welcome to the homework helper for section, 9.1. This is probability 1 though. I mean, the 9 doesn't matter. We're not going in sequential order anymore. We're just going to hit the topics that we want from math secondary, or from secondary math unit 2. So if you need to find this on the Math Vision project website, it's going to be under secondary math 2 module 9. You can find that right there. It's called probability. Let's go ahead and move on. The very first section is going to be on Venn diagrams, and Venn diagrams represent a way of grouping of information. So when we look at something like this, where it's choir and band in this Venn diagram, we have to know what the Venn diagram is asking us to see. So in this is telling us that there are 350 people in the choir that are only in the choir. We then see that there are 225 people in the band that are only in the band. And then we have this 50 represented in the joining of the circles. This represents that there are 50 people where they are both in the choir and in the band. And then finally, outside of that, we have a 375. And so that represents the number of people that are neither in choir or band. Okay? So what it's going to do is going to ask you all of these things. It'll say how many students were surveyed. So there was this many, plus this many, plus this many, plus this many. So we would add our four numbers out about the number of students that were surveyed. And then it's going to say what were they asked. And since there are only two options available, choir or band, we have to assume they were asked whether they were in choir or band, or both. Okay? And then how many students are in both, that would be the center of the Venn diagram, etc. So that's your basic structure of a Venn diagram. When we look at the next one, we see that instead of two possible options, we are given three options. We're given music, foreign language, and art. And from this three-way Venn diagram, we can see the things that overlap. Okay? 450 would be exclusively music. 145 would be both music and art. 200 would be exclusively art. 80 would be both art and foreign language, etc. And in this case, we have that center of 95. That would be the group where all three circles are true at the same time. So 95 are in music, foreign language, and art at the same time. And so this is going to ask you questions about those. Next. For the set, we're going to be interpreting a tree diagram to determine probability. This is going to be very similar to the activity we did in class. Okay? So what we're going to do is these are our first two main trees. So if we were to add these numbers together, we would know the total of people asked, and then it trees off from there and there. And it'll ask us to calculate the probability based on the trunk before it. Okay. That's pretty much that. I mean, it's very much like what we did in class, and we'll just go from there. And then finally, we're going to do some basic probability. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out the success rate, and you're going to have to put that over the total. All right. So when it asks, for example, what is the success rate of rolling an even number on a standard six-sided die? Well, we're going to have to look at six-sided dice, right? Which I have a lot of. When we look at a standard six-sided die, actually, this is probably the type you're used to seeing, right? That's kind of Monopoly. Well, there's six sides, right? There's a 6, there's a 5, there's a 4. Opposite of the 4 is a 3. There's a 2, and there's a 1. Six-sided die. So what are the odds of rolling an even number? Well, that's an odd. There's 1 even. Nope. 2 evens. Nope. 3 even numbers. So there's 3 successes out of 6 possibilities, and that fraction can reduce so that it's a 1 in 2 chance of rolling an even number. The next one says drawing a black card from a standard deck of cards. It's worth noting, those of you that maybe don't play a whole lot of cards, that there are 52 cards in a deck. There's 52, right? Because there are 4 suits. Okay, there's hearts, there's clubs, there's diamonds, and then there's spades. Okay, you guys know I love cards. Club and spade are your black suits, and it's worth noting there are 13 of each suit, so there's 26 black cards out of 52, or again, this is 1/2. Half of them are going to be black cards. Whoop. Okay. A coin has 2 sides. I hope I don't have to explain that. But then it asks, what's the probability of flipping a coin and getting heads 3 times in a row? Well, when we're doing probability, when it's multiple successes in a row, well, what we do is the probability of flipping and getting a head is a half. Then flipping a head is a half. Then flipping a head is a half. So to get the combined probability of getting head, 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 3 heads in a row, it would be a half of a half or a 1 in 8 chance of that happening. And this is actually pretty cool. We can actually do this with a tree diagram, right? Because it's either heads or tails, and then it's either heads, then tails, heads, then tails. And then it's either heads or tails, heads or tails. And I'm running out of room. Heads or tails, or heads or tails. Okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possible options, and head, head, head is only one of those 8 options. So we can see that the chances are 1 in 8, or we can just do it a half times a half times a half, which is 1 or 8. Okay? And go ahead and do the next ones to the best of your ability. When we meet together to talk about this, we'll be able to go over any nuances and maybe play some games with some coins and some cards and some dice. All right, thank you very much.